by formation of internal jugular vein. Let's say all venous blood which is collected inside of your dura mater venous sinuses will be drained into internal jugular vein. I want to remind you that in the base of your skull there are several apertures. And one from these apertures we call aperture of jugular vein. We call it foramen jugularis. It's located near the occipital condyles, little bit in front of occipital condyles. Let's say that is the function of your dura mater sinuses. Now about structure. What is the uniqueness of them? Wall of these veins formed not classically by 3 layers. You know, any vessels classically has 3 layers in the wall. Outer layer we call adventitia, middle layer we call muscles, inner layer we call intima. Here we don't have these layers, we have dura mater. Dura mater forms these vessels. Conclusion, they cannot be constricted, they don't have muscles. They don't have muscles, they cannot be constricted. If this dura mater venous sinus will be damaged, bleeding will be continuous, or by the mortal case, or up to your treatment. How you will treat it, we will study after together. Then I will teach you operative surgery of head region. As I remember, please, vasoconstriction is absent here. And look in the picture. How they form. To answer in this question, I will take somebody's exercise book. And I will try to modulate it for you, these dura mater venous sinuses. As I say you, they form by dura mater. And anatomically, you remember that your dura mater has 2 layers, like I modulated from this exercise book. And especially in the region of the fornix, in some special places, these 2 layers disconnected from each other. And the special structures is formed, which we call, you hear or no? You hear or you sleep? What I ask you? Now repeat my question. No, I show, I don't ask. I cannot ask by my hands. I can ask by my lips and by my tongue. What I ask you now? Don't show my movements. Movements is nothing. What I orally say you. You sleep here, friend. But I will not form for you comfortable situation for sleeping. I will not give you pillow. I will remove you just from my class. You understand me? 1 minute, listen to me. I see your hand. I told you several times, and again I want to repeat you. I don't need your physical presence. You must be here only mentally, by your brain. Or go to your business. Please, friend.
Doctor, these 2 layers are fused, but in some regions
what they forms?
They form sinuses.
No, sit down. They forms the processes of dura mater. And inside of these processes we have sinuses. Let's say, remember please, then 2 layers of dura mater disconnected from each other, we have formation of processes of dura mater. And you can see in this picture the most important processes of dura mater, for example that one, or for example this one, or for example that one. This is the processes. And if you will look attentively, you will see inside of these processes some blue structures. That is the venous sinus. I don't have now time to speak long about it. Just I will remind you that there are very big sinuses. They are located mainly in the region of fornix. And there are small sinuses, which is mainly located in the region of base of skull. The longest our sinus, which is located in upper margin of falx cerebri. This is the process of dura mater, which is divided 2 hemispheres from each other in sagittal plane.
Yes.
And this sinus we call superior sagittal sinus. Sinus sagittalis superior. It is single sinus, which is passed and projected by sagittal line which connect your nasia with your ilium. Say nasal and ilium connected strongly by sagittal plate. In the inferior margin of the same process, you can see another sinus, which we call inferior sagittal sinus. Inferior sagittal sinus will project it by superior temporal line. Next process, which is greatly visible here, we call tentorium cerebelli. If falx located in sagittal plane, tentorium is located in horizontal plane. And they fused to each other on the level of protuberantia occipitalis externa. They fused to each other. Inside of the tentorium, what the meaning, first of all? It is divided big hemispheres from cerebellar hemispheres. It's located between them. And it contained biggest sinus, widest sinus, which we call sinus transversus. Remember, please, now I will show to Hamza head. From protuberantia occipitalis to two sides, you can palpate it, so-called linea nucha superior, superior nuchal line. It is protrusion of the bone which is greatly palpable. That is projection of transverse sinus. Transverse sinus projected by superior nuchal lines. Is it understandable? Yeah. Let's continue.
The transverse sulcus, it's connected to the sulcus occipital or not?
Friend, you must have good behavior. I told you last time that in the time of the lecture, questions is not asked. Questions is asked after the lecture. Now look please here. Continuation of the falx to down in the same direction we call falx cerebelli. I told you that falx cerebri divided big hemispheres to each other. Its continuation to down divided cerebellar hemispheres from each other. In real life, it is continuation to each other. Falx cerebri become to falx cerebelli. Just it is goes down. Falx cerebri located above the tentorium. Falx cerebelli located below the tentorium. It's a tentorium divided falx cerebri from falx cerebelli, because above the tentorium we have big hemispheres, below the tentorium we have cerebellar hemispheres. Inside of falx cerebelli we have double occipital sinuses, which is surrounding your foramen occipitalis major from two sides. That is process number 3. And finally, process number 4, located in the base, not in the fornix, and we call the diaphragm of the Turkish cell. It is located in the base. And it is covered the region of the Turkish cell. You remember, Turkish cell, it is formed by sphenoid bone, and it contains the hypophyse. Hypophyse from upwards covered by diaphragm of the Turkish cell, which is perforated. And by aperture, infundibulum of the brain descended to down and fused with the hypophyse, which is inside of the Turkish cell. What is the meaning of that infundibulum? That is pure anatomy, guys. Infundibulum connected hypothalamus and hypophyse to make regulation of hypophyse work. Because you remember hypothalamus produced release hormones, which is regulated the work of the hypophyse. More of this. Inside of hypothalamus, we have production of oxytocin and vasopressin, which by special way descended in hypophyse and stored inside of posterior hypophyse, which is called neurohypophyse. Hypophyse has two parts. Anterior we call adenohypophyse, and posterior we call neurohypophyse. Adenohypophyse produced its own secrets, which we call tropins. This is hormones which is regulated the work of your internal endocrine glands, like thyrotropin, lactotropin, somatotropin, adrenocorticotropin. But posterior hypophyse doesn't produce anything. It is stored the hormones which is come from hypothalamus. That's why it is called neurohypophyse, because it's connected with central nervous system. Is it understandable for you? Very well. I finished to speak about frontoparieto-occipital region. Now please write the name of all these sinuses you will find. It is just review from your anatomy. And all of them, of course, will be in your exams. Now write the name of next topic, the temporal region. Temporal region. Don't sleep, guys. Don't sleep. Wake up. I told you before, I want to repeat it once again. Every day, every time, every minute even, you must to feel that you have big problems. And the name of your problem, it is absence of medical knowledge. And it will harm your life. It will not give you a chance to be relaxed. Because now in the time of education, you don't have time of relax. I remember a very important idea of one of my famous teachers. He said that you have two choices. First situation, you can work like donkey during 6 years. What is temporal region? That is part of your fornix. But it's not single region as the previous one. It is double region. So it is located exactly below your frontoparieto-occipital region from sides. Below your frontoparieto-occipital region from in front, you have face. Below your frontoparieto-occipital region from behind, you have neck. Let's say once again. In front, below your frontoparieto-occipital, you have face. From sides, below your frontoparieto-occipital, you have temporal, which is part of the fornix, and behind, you have the neck region. Now we speak about these regions. As usually, any region explanation, we start from borders. Now look everybody to me. From in front, it is bordered by two structures. Structure number one, it is the lateral margin of your orbit. Structure number two, it is superior temporal line, which is border region not only from in front, but from above and behind. Because it is arch-shaped line. You can see it in this picture. From below, I will palpate it now, zygomatic arch, and it is upper margin of zygomatic arch. But there are one problem. Your zygomatic arch come up to your external ear, but your superior temporal line pass behind of your ear. And so how I will border this posterior part of temporal region? Simply, guys, imaginary continuation of your zygomatic arch. Let's say zygomatic arch will come up to your external ear, porus acousticus externus. Then I will make imaginary continuation of it. Up to crossing with superior temporal line. Let's say this is the borders from all sides. As usually, let's start to speak about layers. I especially don't say you're right, because all this information is given. Just listen. Friends, that is also, I will say you, look. Teacher has two main purposes and two main meanings for the student. In the old times, teacher mainly is source of information. Because you know, books is very expensive, and it's not so simple to find the literature. That's a main work of the teacher, lecturer. It is to introduce information to the student. Second meaning of the teacher, which is work on the previous time, and which is work today, it is to explain for the students how it's necessary to work with the literature, and how the student can make self-independent research. In 21st century, second response of teacher is much more important than first one. Because information today is very simple, can be found. But teacher should explain you how you can work with this information. That is very important. Let's say, then you mechanically, I am very sorry, like training dogs, start to do some trainings. For example, write any sentence which is teacher say, that is doesn't give generally any value. It's make only your exercise books bigger. Yeah, but exercise book cannot treat the patient. You can do it. They say don't make much more clever your exercise book. Try to change your cleverness. Let's say it will be much more better if you will now listen me and understand Otherwise, you will write everything in your exercise book as she do, for example. Then in your home will open and read and don't understand anything. I think it is not a good option. Let's say, listen to me, please. Skin of region. Skin of region is unique because there are two types of skin. One is located anteriorly, no any hairs. It is thin, it is elastic, and it is movable. Second is located posteriorly. It covered by hairs, it is thick, it is non-elastic, and it is not movable. Little after you will see why this happened. Under of the skin you can see subcutaneous fatty tissue. Subcutaneous fatty tissue is unique here. That is the first region of the human body which you will find fascias. If you remember, in frontoparietal occipital region, we don't describe any fascias. We describe skin, fat, aponevrose, subaponevrotical fat, periosteum, subperiosteal fat, bone, and there no any fascias. How these fascias is formed? Can I show it to you? Now look, you.
To me?
Yeah. She has the, how it's called?
Scarf.
Hijab. Scarf, which is cover the head. Samely, our frontoparietal occipital region covered by aponevrose, which is called galea aponevrotica. And this galea aponevrotica, as you remember, has two layers. Like the hijab, first layer, superficial layer, continues to down and cover all human body. And it forms superficial fascia of human body. Remember forever. But this hijab has also deep layer. This deep layer come to the bone borders and fuse with them, but after continues to down. And it forms now proper or deep fascia of human body. That's why you see, this galea aponevrotica has two layers. And these two layers forms two fascias of human body. Superficial without attachment to the bones continues to down and forms superficial fascia. Deep layer fused with the bones continues to down and forms deep fascia. Deep fascia also can be called proper fascia. And remember please, proper fascia usually we call by name of region. Fascia temporalis, fascia facialis. Yeah? You call it by name of the region. Okay, now look please here. Why I remember about it? Because inside of fatty tissue, we will have superficial fascia. And it divided fat into two layers, superficial and deep. Now remember, in each side of my room, the wall is pus, which is divided my room into superficial and into deep compartments. This is most usual function of superficial fascia. It is located inside of the fat, and it is divided fat into the layers, into two, sometimes into three, sometimes into four. You will see. Now look at please, from this superficial fascia to the skin, septus originated. But this septus is developed only in posterior region, in anterior no. That's why I tell you that posteriorly skin is thick and unmovable, anteriorly vice versa, thin and movable. You understand now what is the difference of the skin and what is determinated this difference. More of this, in superficial layer of the fat, we don't have any vessels and nerves. All vessels and nerves located, all vessels and nerves I mean of fatty tissue, will be in deep layer. Will be in deep layer. And which vessels and nerves you have? Same third neurovascular bundle of frontoparietal occipital region, which I introduced you last time. Temporalis superficialis vessels, auriculotemporal nerve. Why it happened? Because before it reach frontoparietal occipital region, it must pass through the temporal region. Now look, friends. Imagine that these three persons forms the whole human body. To make your education more simple, I divided this whole body into, for example, 3 regions. And I teach you these regions separately to each other, yeah? Because if I will try to give you all these 3 regions together, I can. For me, it's not a problem. but it will be problem for you, because the best way of education, it is classification of knowledge. If you don't classify the knowledge, it is very hard to study it. Because she will have one specificity, he will have another specificity, Hamza will have third specificity. If all these specificities I will give for you at once, you will hardly study. Let's say, firstly I will give her specificity, then his specificity, then Hamza's specificity. But in the real case, don't forget that this is the whole body. That is the whole body. Doesn't matter am I divided into the regions or not. That's right. Now imagine that these vessels started in her part, then passed from his part, and finally reached the Hamza. Your value is not only to know about them in each compartment, but to know the whole passage. Let's say then we speak about the temporalis superficialis vessels. We must from now portions come to the common. Common is say us that even these vessels don't originate in temporal region. After you will see it in face, for example, inside of parotid gland. And finally you will find it in neck, where they originated. And then we will study all these regions. You will have complete picture of these structures. So don't be now confused that the same structure we describe in different regions. That is normal. Let's say temporalis superficialis vessels located in deep layer of fat of temporal region. How they projected, you know. One finger in front of the tragus on the surface of zygomatic arch. Everybody can see this is most simple place of palpation of pulse. More simple than in your radial artery. You will put your finger here, very superficially under the skin. You will palpate it big, huge artery. That is very simple. Use it in your life to palpate here the pulsation of that. Then you palpate the pulsation, friend. First of all, you put it in not correct place, not here, here. Yeah, and 1 minute wait. Then you, now I palpated your pulse. Then you will try to palpate the pulsation. Don't make strong pressure. If you strongly will press, you will close the vessel. You need to close it partly, not completely. Let's say, to be very polite, little bit press and this pulsation will be greatly felt. Don't press so much. Let's continue, guys. What is happened with these vessels inside of temporal region? You know very well. In the border between temporal and frontoparieto-occipital region, they split it into two terminal branches, frontal and parieto-occipital. Same is happened with nervus auriculotemporalis. By the way, I will remind you that artery originated from external carotid artery. Vein is formed, the retromandibular vein. Do you remember I drew for you previously 5 veins which is connects to each other and forms retromandibular vein. Temporalis superficialis, temporalis media, temporalis profundus, are the vena transversa facie and vena maxillaris. These 5 veins, I don't have here now marker, unfortunately. Do you have? No. Just remember, in the practical class we will see. There's a 5 veins joined to each other and they forms vena retromandibularis. This vena retro, I have it in the picture, I can show it for you. For example, here it is greatly visible. This is vena retromandibularis. Look. But you don't see, unfortunately, 2 branches of it. That is posterior branch. That is anterior branch. If I will open the previous lecture material, I will show it much more better for you. For example, here it is brilliantly visible. Now look everybody to me. This is vena retromandibularis. It forms by junction of 5 veins, and the biggest one it is temporalis superficialis. And look here, please. Inferiorly, vena retromandibularis split it into 2 terminal branches. Anterior joint with vena facialis, they forms common facial vein, which is drained into internal jugular vein. Once again, anterior branch of retromandibular vein connected with facial vein, they forms common facial vein, which is drained into internal jugular vein. Posterior branch of it, it's very interesting. Look, connected with posterior auricular and occipital veins, only piece of occipital vein you see here, and it forms external jugular vein. Let's say blood from retromandibular vein partly pass into internal jugular, partly into external jugular. In case of passage of infections, which I will teach you after, you will see that it has huge meaning. Infection can go into the internal jugular system and to external jugular system. Let's continue. Let's say we understand the subcutaneous fatty tissue of temporal region. Next layer now will be layer number 4, not 3, because 3 layers I explained you. Look, skin, fat, superficial fascia, which is inside of the fat and divided fat into 2 layers. Layer number 4 will be, of course, deep fascia or proper fascia. We call it also fascia temporalis. Now look and remember forever. What is the difference between superficial fascia function and deep fascia function? Superficial fascia, I told you before, located in fat and divided fat into layers. There are exceptions. For example, your mammary gland capsule forms by superficial fascia, but it is exception. There are second exception. Our impressional muscles covered by superficial fascia, but it is also exception. What is the function of proper fascia? Remember forever, proper fascia cover all your skeletal muscles and forms the capsules for them. If you will be 3 skeletal muscles, you must to be separated to each other to normally work. Let's say you will be encapsulated. And these capsules will be formed by proper fascia. Because proper fascia cover the skeletal muscles, it should be fused with the bones, because muscles also fused with the bones. Let's say we must to mention place of junction between proper fascia and between the bones. Tell me how many minutes I have. 15 minutes. 15 minutes, it is normal. Let's continue, guys. Now look to me. Superiorly, it is fused with superior temporal line, which is border of our region. Yes or no? Inferiorly, inferior border of my region, it is zygomatic arch. Now listen me attentively. Approximately 2 centimeters above the zygomatic arch, proper fascia split it into 2 branches. One is fused with superficial surface, second with deep surface. First time in your life, you see formation of interfacial space. So again I show, now look here. This is zygomatic arch. Little bit above it, 2-3 centimeters above, one proper fascia divided into 2 layers. One is fused with superficial surface, second with deep surface. What will be formed between my 2 layers? Interfacial space. Interfacial spaces has huge importance for human body. And first main importance, they contain biggest vessels and nerves of human body. Remember please, any interfacial space has fat, has lymphatic nodes, and can have big vessels and nerves. For the surgeons, it's very important to correctly open interfacial space. If you remember, I teach and show you groove probes in the group number 3, which we use to open interfacial space without damaging of content of them. Interfacial spaces is important in surgical practice because if infection will be inside of them, also important, not only in case of vessels. This infection can be spread to another regions. Yes. From that point of view, remember please, all interfacial spaces can be divided into connected and non-connected. What does it mean connected interfacial space? That is space which is from one region to go to another region. For example, from head to neck, from neck to thorax, from thorax to abdomen. That will be connected space. What does it mean? Non-connected space. Space which is inside of one region only, which is don't go from one region to another region. Which space surgically is more important for us? Connected or non-connected? Of course. Because if inside of connected space will be infection, it can be spread into absolutely another place. And it will be hard to be found. Huge amount of spaces we will study in the neck. Majority of human body interfacial spaces located in this small region of the neck. Like surgeon, I want to say you that this is the most dangerous region of human body from the surgical point of view and from the point of traumas also. You know why? You don't find any other part of human body with so concentrated structures. Organs, vessels, nerves, spaces. In the neck region, any millimeter of the place contains something important. You don't find in other parts of human body which has same situation. But let's come to our region. Which kind of space is it? Of course, closed. Because superiorly these two layers fuse to each other, inferiorly bone close this space. There's no any communication, not to up, not to down. It is separated only inside of this space. What does it contain? Fat, superficial lymphatic nodes, and vessels. Which vessels we have here? Remember, please, we call them middle temporal vessels. 2 minutes before, we spoke about superficial temporal vessels in fatty tissue. Now inside of interfacial space, we see big middle temporal vessels. Origin is simple. Middle temporal vessel, R3, it is branch of superficial one. Middle temporal vein drain into the superficial one. I just now show for you that 5 veins join to each other and forms retromandibular vein. Again, I show. Temporalis superficialis, temporalis media, temporalis profundus, little after you will see, maxillaris, and transversa facie. Let's remember, please, inside of this interfacial space, we have middle temporal vessels. That is second vessels, which you see in this region. By the way, finally will be 4 big vessels in this region. Till now, we study superficial and middle. Then we will study deep and middle meningeal artery, which is supplied dura mater. Let's continue. Layer number 5, which is located under the proper fissure, we call fossa temporalis. Temporal fossa. Now look to me, everybody. I don't take today's skull, but in practical lesson I will show for you. If you will palpate it, Hamza, can I palpate your region, temporal region? No? Yes. It's forbidden. Okay, I will palpate my temporal region. Hamza, don't give me permission to palpate his temporal region. Now look to me, guys. I palpate my own temporal region, and what I find, it has form of depression. You know why? Because here we have the scavama of temporal bone. Hamza, palpation, it's not something bad. Palpation, it is just touch.
You can't do mine.
No, okay, I will palpate it. Today I will palpate it myself. I palpated my temporal region, guys, and I find that here we have depression. Now, imagine that this depression, which now I modulated by my hand, I have in temporal region. It will be covered by proper fissure. Why? Superiorly, it will be fused by linea temporalis superior, inferiorly by zygomatica. Do you see space between these two structures? It is fossa temporalis. Let's say fossa temporalis from superficially bordered by proper fissure. From deep, it is bordered by depressed bones. Which depressed bones we have here? Scavama of temporal bone. Scavama of temporal bone, it is thinnest bone of your skull. In some genetical situation, the thickness of it will be like this paper. It is approximately 0.1% of cases. Genetical problem. You can live all your life without trauma and you can be happy. But even small trauma in this region can be enough to break this bone. If this bone will be breaked, will be big chance for mortal complication. I will explain you why after. Just now remember, and naturally it is thickest bone, and genetically it can be much more, thinnest bone, not thickest one. Thickest bone of your skull will be occipital. And the thinnest bone of your skull, it is the squamous of temporal bone. Let's say 1 minute attention. Now we don't speak about temporal bone, we speak about fossa temporalis, which is between proper fascia and which is between this thin bone. This fossa temporalis, behind of zygomatic arch, communicated with part of your face, which we call fossa infratemporalis. Let's say we have fossa temporalis and we have fossa infratemporalis. Let's say these two fossas behind of zygomatic arch communicated to each other. If inside of one from them will be pus, it can be simply continuous to another because they communicate. That is awful complication. You know why? Because fossa infratemporalis, it is deep phase. Deep phase. I will teach you. And this deep phase, by aperture on the base of skull, connected with cranial cavity. If the pus will come to deep phase by veins, which is pus inside of the apertures, foramen ovale, foramen rotundum, foramen spinosum, foramen jugulare, and another foramens, it can be connected with cranial cavity. And what will be happen if infection will be spread into cranial cavity? Huh? Repeat, please, what I ask you. You wake up, it is good. You wake up. What will be happen? 3 problems. Maybe you will tell me.
Inflammation.
Which kind? Of course, inflammation. If pus to some region, I think happiness will not be happening. Inflammation will be happening. But which inflammation? First one we call meningitis. Second one we call encephalitis. And third one we call sinus thrombosis. What is meningitis? Inflammation of three meninges. Yeah, dura, arachnoid, pia. What is encephalitis? Inflammation of brain tissue. Inflammation of brain tissue. What is sinus thrombosis?
Is in the sinus.
Closing of the sinus. By the way, each inflammation, which I tell you is mortal, without emergency treatment, you will have very short time to treat. Very short.
Even sinuses?
Especially sinus thrombosis. Because what is happened when the thrombosis is closed? It gives extreme increasement of the pressure in the cranial cavity. And what after? I told you before, you will be now medulla oblongata, inside of foramen occipitalis major. Behind of you, I will be cerebellum. I told you if the pressure will be increased, cerebellum will try to insert it inside of foramen occipitalis. From place of high pressure, it will go to the place of low. You will be pressed. If you will be pressed, person will be dead from stop of breathing and stop of heart work. Because inside of medulla, we have vegetative centers in fossa rhomboidea, as you remember. So remember about it, guys. You are good persons. My subject is interesting subject, but unfortunately time comes to conclusion. After 3-4 minutes we will finish. That's why now I will check your time. Let's give me your number of your group. Yeah, I'm friends. Oh, good.